Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you wanted to talk to someone in English, but your mind just went completely blank? Maybe you were at a coffee shop, standing in line, and you noticed someone interesting next to you. Or perhaps you were at a networking event, surrounded by English speakers, and you felt frozen, not knowing how to break the ice. You had so much you wanted to say, but the words just wouldn't come out. I know that feeling. I've been there. And today, I'm going to change that for you forever. Welcome back to English with Aurora. I'm so glad you're here with me today because we're going to tackle one of the biggest challenges English learners face: starting conversations. And not just starting them, but starting them confidently, naturally, and in a way that makes people actually want to talk to you. By the end of this lesson, you're going to have a complete toolkit of phrases, strategies, and real-world examples that will make you feel like a conversation master. Sound good? Let's dive in. Here's something most English courses won't tell you. The problem isn't your English. It's not your vocabulary, and it's not even your grammar. The real problem is that you don't have a system. You're trying to create conversations from scratch every single time, and that's exhausting. Native speakers don't do that. We use patterns. We use what I call conversation starters, and once you know them, starting conversations becomes almost automatic. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you heard a native English speaker say, "Hello, my name is John, what is your name?" Probably never, right? Because that's textbook English. Real English is different. Real English is friendly, casual, and often indirect. So let's start learning the way real people actually talk. Let's begin with the most common situation: meeting someone for the first time in a casual setting. Imagine you're at a party, a conference, or even waiting for a class to start. Here's the secret. Don't lead with your name. Lead with an observation or a question that opens the door to conversation. For example, instead of walking up and saying, "Hi, I'm Sarah," try this. "Hey, have you tried the food yet? I heard the appetizers are amazing." Simple, right? You're not putting pressure on yourself or the other person. You're just making a light comment that invites a response. And here's the beautiful part. Once they respond, the conversation naturally flows from there. Another powerful opener is the compliment plus question technique. Let's say you notice someone wearing a cool jacket. You could say, "I love your jacket. Where did you get it?" This works like magic because everyone loves genuine compliments, and asking where they got it gives them something easy to talk about. You've just created a comfortable space for conversation without any awkwardness. Now let me share a quick story with you. Last year I was at an airport in London, waiting for a delayed flight. I noticed a woman next to me reading a book I had just finished. Instead of sitting there in silence, I said, "Oh, I just read that book. Are you enjoying it so far?" She looked up, smiled, and we ended up talking for an hour. We exchanged book recommendations, travel stories, and by the time my flight was called, I had made a new friend. All because I used one simple conversation starter. Here's another situation. Starting a conversation with someone you see regularly but have never actually talked to. Maybe it's someone at your gym, a neighbor, or a regular at the coffee shop you go to. The key here is acknowledgement plus casual question. You want to acknowledge that you've seen them around, which makes the conversation feel natural, not random. Try something like this. "Hey, I see you here all the time. Do you live nearby?" Or if you're at the gym, "I always see you on the treadmill in the mornings. Are you training for something?" These openers work because they show you're observant and interested, but not in a creepy way. You're just being friendly and human. Let's talk about professional settings now, because this is where a lot of people freeze up. Starting conversations at work events, conferences, or networking situations can feel intimidating. But here's the truth. Everyone at these events wants to talk to people. That's why they're there. You're actually doing them a favor by starting a conversation. One of my favorite professional openers is the event-related question. "So, what brings you to this conference?" Or, "Have you been to one of these events before?" These questions are low pressure and give the other person a chance to talk about themselves, which people love to do. Another great one is the common ground opener. If you're at a work event, you could say, "So, what department are you in?" Or, "How long have you been with the company?" If someone mentions they work in marketing and you're interested in that field, you could follow up with, "That's interesting. What's the most challenging part of your job right now?" People appreciate genuine curiosity, and questions like this show you're not just making small talk, you're actually interested. Here's a quick tip that will change everything for you. When you ask a question, don't just wait for the answer and then go blank. Listen for what I call conversation hooks. These are little details in what the person says that you can grab onto and explore further. For example, if someone says, "I'm here for a marketing conference," don't just say, "Oh, cool." Instead, grab that hook. "Marketing, nice. Are you more on the digital side or traditional?" See how that keeps the conversation moving. You're building on what they said instead of letting it drop. Now let's talk about one of the most versatile conversation starters in English, talking about the present moment or environment. This works in almost any situation because you and the other person are sharing the same experience right now. Let's say you're at a coffee shop and the line is really long. You could turn to the person next to you and say, "This line is crazy today, right?" Or, "I hope they're making something really good up there." It's light, it's relatable, and it opens the door for the other person to respond. Or imagine you're at a concert or event. You could say, "This is my first time seeing this band live. Have you seen them before?" Or, "The energy here is amazing, isn't it?" These comments create an instant connection because you're both experiencing the same thing. Here's something really important. Your tone and body language matter just as much as your words. You can say the perfect opener, but if you're looking at the ground and mumbling, it's not going to work. When you start a conversation, make eye contact, smile, and use a warm, friendly tone. Think about how you'd talk to a friend, not how you'd give a presentation. Let me tell you about my student, Carlos. He came to me frustrated because he said people didn't seem interested when he tried to talk to them. So I watched him practice, and I immediately saw the problem. He was using great phrases, but his delivery was stiff and formal. He sounded like he was reading from a script. We worked on relaxing his tone, adding natural pauses, and smiling more when he spoke. Within 2 weeks, he told me conversations were flowing so much easier. Same words, different delivery. Huge difference. Now, what about online conversations? Maybe you're messaging someone on a professional platform, or you're in an online class, or you're joining a virtual meeting. The principles are the same, but the approach is slightly different. For professional messages, try starting with a specific compliment or reference. Instead of "Hi, I'd like to connect," say something like, "Hi, I came across your article on sustainable marketing and found it really insightful. I'd love to connect and hear more about your work." This shows you've actually paid attention to who they are, not just sending a generic message. In virtual meetings or classes, try the relatable comment approach. "Is anyone else having a Monday morning already?" Or, "I'm joining from a very rainy London today. Where's everyone else calling in from?" These small comments make you seem approachable and human, which encourages others to respond. Let's get into some specific phrases you can use right away. I want you to think of these as your conversation toolkit. You don't need to memorize all of them, just pick a few that feel natural to you and practice until they become automatic. For casual situations, try these. "Hey, quick question, do you know if this place has Wi-Fi?" Or, "Excuse me, have you been here before? I'm trying to figure out what to order." Or, "This weather is unbelievable, right?" These are simple, friendly, and non-threatening. For professional settings, here are some solid options. "I don't think we've officially met. I'm Aurora. What do you do here?" Or, "I'm still pretty new here. Any tips for surviving meetings with the leadership team?" Or, "I'd love to hear your thoughts on the presentation we just saw. What did you think?" For travel situations, these work really well. "Excuse me, do you know if this train goes to the city center?" Or, "Long flight, right? Where are you headed?" Or, "First time in the city. Any recommendations for must-see places?" Here's a powerful technique that most people don't know about: the callback. This is when you reference something from an earlier part of the conversation to show you were listening and to create continuity. For example, if someone mentioned earlier that they love hiking, later in the conversation you could say, "You mentioned you like hiking. Have you done any good trails recently?" This makes people feel heard and valued, and it naturally deepens the conversation. Let me share another story. My friend Emma was at a work conference and felt totally out of place. She didn't know anyone, and her anxiety was through the roof. But she remembered what I taught her about conversation starters. During a coffee break, she walked up to someone and said, "These conferences always make me feel like I'm back in school. Do you get that feeling too?" The guy laughed and said, "Absolutely. I never know whether to sit in the front row and look eager or hide in the back." They ended up talking for 20 minutes, and he introduced her to 3 other people. One conversation starter changed her entire conference experience. Now let's talk about something crucial: what to do when a conversation isn't flowing. Sometimes you start a conversation and the other person gives you short answers, or they seem distracted, or it just feels awkward. Here's what you need to know. It's not always about you. Maybe they're having a bad day, maybe they're shy, or maybe they're just not in the mood to chat. And that's okay. If you sense the conversation isn't working, don't force it. You can politely exit by saying something like, "Well, it was nice chatting with you," or "I'll let you get back to what you were doing." There's no shame in gracefully ending a conversation that isn't working. In fact, knowing when to step back is a sign of social intelligence. But here's the flip side. Sometimes people seem uninterested at first because they're caught off guard. They weren't expecting someone to talk to them. In those cases, don't give up after the first exchange. Ask one more question, share a quick story, and give them a chance to warm up. You'd be surprised how many great conversations start a little awkwardly. Let me give you a confidence-building exercise you can do right now. Think of 3 places you go regularly. Maybe it's a coffee shop, a gym, and a grocery store. For each place, come up with one conversation starter you could use. Write them down. Practice saying them out loud. And then this week, use at least one of them, just one. You don't need to have a long conversation, just start it. That's the goal. Because here's the thing. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from taking action. Every time you start a conversation, even if it's just a quick comment about the weather, you're building your confidence muscle. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. I want to share one more really important point with you. Starting conversations isn't just about the words, it's about the mindset. If you go into every interaction thinking, "I hope I don't mess this up," or "What if they think I'm weird?" you're already setting yourself up for anxiety. Instead, try shifting your mindset to curiosity. Think, "I wonder what this person's story is," or "I'm curious what they think about this." When you approach conversations with genuine curiosity instead of fear, everything changes. Here's something I learned from years of teaching English and talking to people from all over the world. Most people are just waiting for someone to be friendly. They want connection just as much as you do. They're hoping someone will smile at them, ask them a question, or make a kind comment. When you start a conversation, you're not bothering them. You're offering them a moment of human connection in a world that often feels disconnected. So let's recap everything we've covered today, because I want you to walk away from this video feeling ready and excited to start conversations in English. First, remember that native speakers use patterns, not perfect grammar. Use observations, compliments, and questions to open conversations naturally. Second, tailor your approach to the situation. Casual settings call for light, friendly comments. Professional settings benefit from event-related or common ground questions. Third, listen for conversation hooks and build on what people say. Fourth, your tone and body language are just as important as your words. Be warm, smile, and make eye contact. And fifth, approach conversations with curiosity, not fear. You have everything you need right now to start conversations confidently in English. You don't need to be fluent. You don't need a perfect accent. You just need to be willing to try, to be human, to be interested in others. That's the real secret. I want to leave you with this thought. Every person you admire who seems naturally good at conversations, they weren't born that way. They practiced. They stumbled. They had awkward moments. But they kept going, and so can you. Starting today, right now, you have the tools to walk into any room, any situation, and start a conversation with confidence. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so proud of you for investing in yourself and your English journey. Remember, every conversation you start is a step forward. Keep practicing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. You've got this. I'll see you in the next video.